This morning, I made a breakfast soup, but it didn't turn out as well as I'd hoped. It's a bit thin and lacks flavor. Maybe next time we could try making it thicker, though we should be careful with the salt, since my doctor advised me to cut back on it. That said, I do enjoy bold flavors. Speaking of preferences, my mother-in-law Brittany is quite particular about her food. She loves it heavily seasoned, even though her health isn't the best. She's a bit overweight and on the verge of diabetes. Her doctor has warned her to be mindful of her diet, but she doesn't seem too concerned. She often adds extra salt and pepper to the dishes I prepare, no matter how many health-conscious spices I use. It's surprising how much seasoning she adds, and it never seems to satisfy her. I'm genuinely worried about her health if she keeps this up. Dealing with Brittany is challenging. She's often critical and difficult. My name is Diana. I'm 31, and aside from working, I manage our home. I've been married for 4 years, and we don't have children. The issue is I'm unable to have children, and Brittany never lets me forget it. She often tells me that as a woman, my inability to bear children makes me less valuable, and I should be grateful just to be allowed in the house. We've tried many times, and I've gone through countless treatments, but nothing has worked. It's been physically and emotionally draining. So, I've decided to stop the treatments. They're expensive, and continuing without any guarantee of success feels futile. My husband once mentioned that investing in fertility treatments felt pointless. This whole situation weighs heavily on me, especially when my husband echoes his mother's harsh words, agreeing that my inability to conceive somehow makes me incomplete. Despite everything, I've always wanted a child, but now I'm beginning to think it might be time to accept our circumstances and find peace with it. Even though my husband keeps urging me to try for a baby quickly, the pressure only makes things worse. I can't just get pregnant because it's expected of me. After stopping the fertility treatments, I thought maybe I could find happiness just with my husband, but my mother-in-law keeps pushing the idea of a grandchild. She often brings it up, even buying diapers and showing them to me, saying, "Look, I got diapers. You'll need them one day." To that, I responded, "Aren't those a bit small for you, Brittany?" She replied with excitement, "These are for a baby, can't you see?" I sarcastically shot back, "Well, I wouldn't know. I'm the broken woman who can't have kids." That comment upset her, and she stormed off to her room. I was relieved when she left, already exhausted from work and not in the mood to deal with her harsh remarks. It seems like her favorite pastime is making my life more difficult. We moved in with my in-laws after my father-in-law passed away a year ago. It was a tough time for Brittany, and around then, her doctor also warned her about her risk of diabetes. We moved in to support her, but despite her condition, she's doing okay as long as she sticks to her medications and follows a proper diet. Yet she often neglects her meds and eats whatever she likes, putting her health at risk. Honestly, it's exhausting to watch. I dread the thought of being responsible for her care. I'm still in my 20s, working full-time, and managing everything already feels overwhelming. The next day, my day off, I found myself caught up with household chores. Usually my mother-in-law spends her time lounging on the sofa with snacks, but to my surprise, she got up and wandered into my room. I didn't want her in there, but my hands were full, so I didn't object when she said she'd clean my room. "Thanks," I replied, though I couldn't shake the suspicion gnawing at me. She added, "You know, if you leave your room messy, you'll attract bugs." And I managed a strained smile, replying, "Sure, enjoy your clean room." But something about her behavior still didn't sit right with me. It seemed like she took my polite response as gratitude, but it only made me feel more uncertain about her intentions. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was up to something. That evening, I decided to sleep in my husband's room. He had been away on business since the day before and wouldn't be back for a while. Even if he found out, I knew he wouldn't mind. We usually slept in separate rooms because of my nursing job with its irregular hours and night shifts. Our relationship had grown a bit distant over time, and I didn't want to disturb him with my odd hours. After making sure my mother-in-law had gone to her room, I slipped into my husband's thinking, "She's in her room now. I can finally get some rest." I ended up spending 3 nights there. My mother-in-law, however, began to grow suspicious of my unusually upbeat demeanor. One day, she asked, "Are you sure you're not feeling any discomfort or anything?" I dodged her gaze and replied, "What do you mean?" She dropped the subject quickly, but it was clear she was thinking about something. Later that day, as she ate her meal alone, I prepared to relax before my night shift. Relaxing isn't easy with my mother-in-law around, though. She rarely helps with the housework and prefers to give me orders instead. It's hard to unwind when she's constantly lounging on the couch, munching on snacks, and absorbed in her women's manga. I couldn't help but feel like she was scheming her next move to rile me up. Glancing at the comic cover, I saw it was titled Epic Mother and Daughter-in-Law Swamp Battle. I rolled my eyes at her dramatic choice of reading material. My husband finally returned late from his trip around 9 p.m., looking utterly exhausted. "I'm going to take a bath," he announced. "Sure, I'll heat it for you. Have a beer while you wait," I suggested. He was about to agree when I added, "Actually, it's not safe to drink alcohol before a bath." He sighed and opted for a non-alcoholic beer instead, probably more out of habit than anything. I thought my caution was common sense. After all, even saunas have signs warning against drinking before entering. But it seems common sense isn't so common in our house. After his bath, my husband started singing loudly. We live in a single-family home, but it was late and I worried about the neighbors. "Hey, you're too loud," I called out. "Shut it, you're the one being loud," he shot back. I quietly urged him to stop, but then my mother-in-law intervened, walking into the bathroom area to defend him. "What's wrong with that?" she challenged. "You don't know how to treat your husband, do you? Always so inconsiderate and complaining." I snapped, "I'm not the one always complaining, Brittany." I shot back, "You're definitely not cute. Not that you were a beauty to begin with." She sneered in response. I shrugged it off, replying, "That's okay with me. I probably look like a knockout in some other country, no worries." Afterward, my husband finished his bath and started drinking. It was already 9:40 p.m., and I needed to leave for my shift at the hospital. Even though it was close by, there was still a lot to prepare for the busy night ahead. As I got ready to leave a bit early, I mentioned to my husband, "By the way, I've been sleeping in your room. Would you mind using mine tonight? My clothes are all over the place." He casually responded, "Sure, doesn't matter to me." "Okay, I'm heading out then. Take care," I whispered to him, trying to keep my voice low so Brittany wouldn't overhear. Just as I reached for my bag, I heard my husband let out a loud groan. I turned around to find him curled up on the floor, clutching his leg, his face twisted in pain. Brittany's face went pale as she panicked. "What's happening? Speak," she demanded, but he was too hurt to respond. I felt a rush of adrenaline, knowing I needed to act quickly. But then I noticed something strange. The floor was unusually slippery. Even in my socks, I felt like I could easily slip. "What on earth is this?" I exclaimed, looking at both my husband and Brittany. "Brittany, what did you do?" "I didn't do anything. It's not my fault," Brittany protested, but it was clear blaming anyone wouldn't help in that moment. Without hesitation, I called for an ambulance. My husband was rushed straight to the hospital where I worked, and suddenly, work became the last thing on my mind. At the hospital, he continued to clutch his leg, sweating and writhing in pain. "It hurts so bad," he groaned. "Hang in there, please," I pleaded, feeling helpless as I watched him suffer. Thankfully, a doctor quickly examined him and confirmed my fears. It was a broken leg, a fifth metatarsal fracture, just like I had suspected. His foot was visibly swollen, a typical sign of this kind of injury, usually caused by tripping or putting too much weight on the foot. I couldn't help but recall my own experience years ago when I twisted my ankle falling down the stairs. I'd been lost in my music, not paying attention, and heard a loud snap followed by searing pain. I'd been diagnosed with the same fracture. It was an embarrassing memory, but it rushed back as I saw my husband in similar distress. I ended up telling a white lie to my close friends about my husband's injury. Since the fracture wasn't life-threatening, he didn't need to stay at the hospital and was able to come home that day. I was still scheduled for my night shift, but my nursing supervisor insisted I take the night off. She said the injury wasn't severe, but she seemed genuinely concerned about us. Later, while my husband was resting, he remarked, "I survived, but now I've got a fever." "Well, you did break your leg, so a fever isn't too surprising," I replied, but I'm wondering why the floor was so slippery. Maybe we should ask Brittany about that. Curious and wary, I approached Brittany. "Hey, what did you do to the floor in the room?" I asked. Her response shocked me. "Well, the floor was slippery because I slipped and fell. I could have seriously hurt myself," she said defensively. Before I could say anything, my husband interjected. "Brittany," she then shockingly admitted, "that room is meant for my daughter-in-law." So I greased the floor. I was hoping she'd slip, so I put a lot of grease on it. I never expected you to go in there and slip. I was in complete disbelief. Unbelievable, I muttered. My mother-in-law had actually greased the floor, hoping I'd fall. Though she claimed to have cleaned the room, her true intention was to cause me harm. I was furious. If I had entered that room, I could have seriously injured myself. Breaking my leg would have been the least of my worries. Hitting my head could have been fatal. Her actions were borderline criminal. You're despicable. You're not even family to me anymore, I shouted. I could have been badly hurt because of you. I'm going to the police. But Brittany, desperate to deflect, retorted, wait a minute. I didn't directly cause harm, did I? Your wife was the one who told you to go into that room. So this is all her fault. Shut up. That's not the point. My husband snapped, dialing the police. As he struggled with the phone, my mother-in-law tried to grab it from him. Despite the pain from his broken leg, my husband clung to the phone, speaking urgently with the police. I was torn, wishing I could be anywhere but here, maybe even at work, at the hospital, far from this chaos. I knew it wouldn't be long before the neighbors found out, especially since I had almost been hurt too. I considered calling the police myself, wondering if she might face charges for attempted assault. But as I voiced this, Brittany interrupted, wait, now I don't want the police involved. I was stunned by her casual response. Really? You knew what could happen when you chose this path? Did you think you could just erase me from existence? Brittany's indifferent reply shocked me further. I did hope it would be simpler if he just vanished. Wow, I sneered. You're downright criminal in your thinking. Personally, I wish they'd lock you away forever. That's when I made my decision. That's it. Let's get a divorce. What? My husband exclaimed. You can't be serious. After everything, you're just going to walk away? I can't live like this anymore, I replied firmly. Your moral compass is so skewed. I can't bear it any longer. Wait, please don't end our marriage over this, my husband pleaded. I don't need you. I'm perfectly capable on my own, I said, my resolve unwavering. I need you, he countered, desperation in his voice. I was counting on your income. I even signed a contract for that Honda Century I've always wanted. I don't care about that anymore, I said, cutting him off. I went to clean the grimy floor, hastily packed my things, and grabbed my wedding ring, setting it on the table. I then rummaged through a shelf full of old papers and found the divorce papers he prepared before, when he'd said we'd divorce if I couldn't have a child within 3 years. Well, I can't have children now. So thanks, but no thanks. With that, I sealed my decision, holding the divorce papers firmly in my hand. Let's get this over with. My husband tried to argue, asking about the loan for his cherished car, but I wasn't interested. Who cares? I muttered, leaving him behind. I headed straight to the hospital, and when I arrived, the compassionate charge nurse seemed to understand immediately. She didn't need to ask many questions. She could tell that I had my reasons. Being a nurse, I knew I could support myself without relying on anyone else. As I thought about everything that had happened, I couldn't help but wonder why I'd tolerated poor treatment from my in-laws for so long. The entire situation seemed absurd now. I decided to focus solely on my work and leave the past behind. The next morning, I filed for divorce. And just like that, he became my ex-husband. Given all the emotional turmoil he had caused, I consulted a lawyer about seeking compensation. In the end, my ex was ordered to pay me, and I couldn't help but think, serves you right. The police involvement had made the neighbors avoid my mother-in-law. She had openly talked about how my ex-husband had broken his leg, casting her in a negative light. Everyone now saw her for what she was, a terrible parent. Eventually, my ex distanced himself from her and seemed to kick her out. She complained about her new life, lamenting how difficult it was to adjust to living alone on a minimal survivor's benefit. Our previous grocery bills had been outrageous, and she struggled to adapt. As for my ex, I lost all interest in what happened to him. He had taken me for granted and expected me to contribute financially, which had been a huge annoyance. Though he wasn't exactly wealthy, he still made impulsive decisions like taking out a loan for a new car, something I doubted he could even afford. 3 years later, I met a doctor from the hospital, and we started dating. After a year, we married, and a miracle happened. We were blessed with a child. Despite everything I had been through, I was finally living the life I'd always deserved. From now on, I promised myself I would cherish each moment with my family and make the most of these new beginnings.